Julia Child, at the age of 87, has come out with a new cooking show and a new cookbook, and this in itself is really impressive. And she's still, after all these years, she's been on television since the early mid-60s, has a huge following of people of all ages and of all types. So I wanted to do a special thing for her, to invite her to the Toronto Star Test Kitchen and have our local Toronto chefs cook her a lunch, which would be inspired by her latest cookbook, by using Canadian ingredients.
Well, after I married, I started cooking. I was in Washington, D.C., and I used Gourmet magazine and The Joy of Cooking. That was way back in the 40s. And then we got sent over to Paris. And as soon as I got over to France and ate that food, I was off. It was so good. And I immediately went to the cordon bleu, and that's how I got into it.
The dish is made basically with Canadian Yukon goat potatoes, and the reason I use all of these ingredients are Canadian. The Yukon goat potato was developed in Canada, and the caviar is a Canadian sturgeon caviar, so they are softer than the Caspian Sea. And these quail eggs are just a hard-boiled quail egg. And the reason I serve it in this glass, because I heard Julia Child likes martini once in a while, so I tried to make basically a mashed potato martini for her.
Chef, that's delicious. I never have had caviar with mashed potatoes.
We were asked to use some Canadian ingredients and give it a Canadian theme. So I chose to use Icy Waters Arctic Char, which comes from the far north of Canada. And I'm going to hickory smoke it, just a cold smoke, and then I'm going to steam it and serve it on a bed of melted leeks and tomatoes and some French lentils. Julia Child is really into French food, so I score a few points there. And I'm going to make a fresh horseradish white wine sauce, and then I'll finish it with a little salad of chervil, green onion and carrot, and then some shaved fresh horseradish over the top. It sounds like a mouthful, but it'll be a nice mouthful. It won't be too complicated.
Well, meeting Julia Child, it's a wonderful experience. Any chef looks at Julia Child. She's an icon in cooking. Winning the contest, I was floored when I won. I could not believe it. It's amazing.
What I was asked to do today actually was a galette recipe from Julia's book, and I just put in a few twists of my own. I was using Northern Spy apples. We wanted to show Julia these apples that are local for us and really great, and actually it worked beautifully with this recipe. I also wanted to introduce to her some of our great wines, and in the case of the glaze going with that, she has in her recipe some Grand Marnier in there, and I actually made an apple jelly using some late harvest Riesling as some flavoring, sort of intensified the taste of the apple.
I watched her on the weekend cooking with Emerald, and they were making hamburgers. Now, Julia made her hamburger. Emerald was telling her how to make it, but she completely ignored him. She just went about her own way and made the hamburger. And she really made, she hasn't changed. She just got a little older, but she's still the firecracker that she's always been.
It's like a madhouse. And it's very, very lively, but I think one of the troubles with the Food Network is that they have to get a big audience, or they won't pay their bills. And I think Emerald has really saved it, because he's tremendously popular.
Meeting Julia was a real privilege and a pleasure for me, because I vibrate in a very narrow band of the food spectrum, and to be in the presence of somebody with such all-encompassing knowledge is just unbelievable.
Well, I love the contest because I think it's a way that the paper can reach out into the community, which I really appreciate that the Star does. My daughter won one of the Toronto Star Kids Writing Contests, so we now have 2 winners in my family, and we just love it because it really helps us feel connected to the paper, and I think it helps the paper feel connected to the community. And it was also a delight to be here for lunch and to meet Julia.
I've had the pleasure of meeting Marion and Julia. Last time she was in Toronto, we did a dinner, so I served her Pinot Noir. She loves Pinot Noir, so that I knew about. So she thought this time it'd be nice to do something really Canadian. So we decided to do the Canadian ice wine, which is becoming well known even in the United States, where she's from.
It does have a nice nose to it too, doesn't it?
You get lychee?
I never get any of those things on there. Never.
Well, I think that what Julia Child represents is the popularization of good food. She was the first one who made that kind of cooking really accessible to people. And our readers are the kind of people who are interested in things that they can do themselves, they can do it at home, and they look to someone like this for guidance, and always have. And I think that that really works for the Star.
It's going to be the usual giant lineup for you tomorrow. 400 people, I think.
Really?
I think so.
I hope they have enough books. Yes, we were in the San Francisco and we sold 850 books at one store.
850?
Yeah, went all over town trying to find more books, and then we ended up signing towels and spoons and everything else.
The thing about Julia Child that is really special too is that although she has all the qualifications of a professional chef, and she has a huge following among professional chefs, she has brought good cooking to the homes of so many average people who might not have tried to do fairly elaborate or even semi-elaborate cooking, have been inspired to do so by watching her. And for me, being, a food editor and a food writer, she is the most authoritative person in my field.
Read the food section Wednesday in your Toronto Star. To try the Star, call 362-8788.